So we are T-minus 6 months away from this rumored launch of an upcoming $1,000 UCS Death Star. It's crazy how fast time's going this year in 2025, and I want to make my predictions. Will it be a UCS Death Star 2 like we got in 2005? Will it be yet another playset version? Will it be a combination of the two? Could you convert a Death Star 2 into a Death Star 1 in the same set? All of those questions are things I want to speculate on today. Now, everything up to this point is still a rumor. I know nothing, otherwise I wouldn't be able to make this video, and I just want to see how close I will be in terms of my predictions later this year. If this rumor is true of a $1,000 Death Star, I want to see how close I can get. And I want to see what you guys have to say down in the comments below. I want this to be an open conversation. So let's get into this. My thoughts on what a $1,000 UCS Death Star could be.
All right, so let's get right into this, guys. The UCS Death Star. I mean, first off, we got to talk about the elephant in the room. That price tag of $999 US, basically $1,000 for one single Lego set. This is unheard of, uncharted territory, and we'll see if it's true or not later this year. The other rumor going around for this set is that it's supposed to have over 40 minifigures, or at least 40 minifigures. I could see 40 minifigures and then maybe some like micro, like brick built figures of some type or something like that. But for this video, we're going to say it's just 40 minifigures, and we'll speculate on what those are here in just a few minutes. Now, let's take a look back into the past and see, well, what are the currently available biggest Lego sets. And first off, we have the Eiffel Tower at 10,001 pieces, but we also can't forget about the now retired world map. This is technically the biggest Lego set by piece count at 11,695 pieces. And then, the Eiffel Tower is the only one available of the two here with 10,001 pieces. Now, the Eiffel Tower can just say it's the tallest, biggest Lego set in that regard. And it's an ongoing debate about which of these two sets is actually the biggest. Do you actually count the world map for what it is? I'm going to say yes. It was a standalone Lego product that you could buy in the store, and it had 11,000 plus pieces. So in my personal opinion, this Death Star needs to have at least 11,696 or more pieces to be, in my opinion, the biggest Lego set by piece count. I don't think it'll be able to beat out width, height, or length in terms of sizing of other Lego sets, and we'll talk about what I mean there here also in a few minutes.
So at the beginning of the video, you might have noticed this boxed up UCS Death Star playset from 2008. And this set is brand new and sealed. And I'm actually going to be auctioning off on my next Whatnot stream. So this coming Sunday, March 23rd at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm going live on Whatnot, and I'm not just auctioning off this set, I'm giving away free Lego Star Wars sets like the elusive TIE Bomber helmet set. This bad boy goes for $300, completely free, no strings attached. This will be a giveaway during the stream alongside two of the newly released AT-AT pilot helmets. So 3 giveaways right here in helmet sets. We're going to be auctioning off this Death Star, and I'm auctioning off more sealed Lego Star Wars sets from all the way back to 2013, guys. We have stuff from The Force Awakens. We have stuff from the 2013, 2014 era. Really awesome classic Lego Star Wars sets. All of these are brand new and sealed. There's minifigure polybags like the Chrome Stormtrooper that'll be auctioning off. Of course, we'll have minifigures as well. This is a crazy Whatnot stream you're absolutely not going to want to miss out on. Now, down in the description, you'll find a link to join Whatnot. It's an app that you download both on iOS and Android. And when you do so, if it's your first time joining Whatnot, you'll get a $15 credit that you can use towards your first purchase, whether it's on my stream or someone else's. And guys, this is a heck of a stream. We've got a lot happening, great giveaways, great auctions. It all starts this Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's when I go live on Whatnot. And thanks to Whatnot for sponsoring today's video. And now, let's get back to some more speculation.
What about the size? So this is, again, another big contention point. First off, we need to look back and see how Lego designers actually, design their sets. How do they understand how big or small a Lego set should be, especially an Ultimate Collector Series set? So first off, I had a conversation with a Lego Marvel designer, a senior designer. His name's Mark, and this happened, I want to say a couple years ago. I think I was actually interviewing him for the Black Panther bus set. I believe he was the designer behind that. And he had seen that my shelves behind me were the IKEA IKEA Ivor shelves, and I love those shelves to death. You guys know I use those all the time. And he told me that he has the same ones and that it's a common shelf for Lego designers to reference back to in terms of how a Lego set fits on a shelf. Like maybe these are sitting around in Denmark and Billund, and this is what they're using, but he told me baseline shelf size. And the IKEA Ivor shelf in terms of width and depth is 35 inches by 20 inches. Now, pay attention to that key 20 inches. We'll come back to that here in a minute. In terms of height, obviously with the Eiffel Tower being like, I think that's over 48 inches tall, pretty much you can go any height as long as, you know, the set is still movable. That's another constraint I've heard from designers, that you have to be able to pick it up and move it into another room, or it can separate into sections and you can pick those up, like Rivendell, for example. So what are the current sizes of the previous Death Star sets? Well, first off, we have the playset from 2008/2016, which is the Playscale Death Star. I love this thing to death. So it's a full diameter of 16 inches. Now, what about the 2005 UCS Death Star 2? This one is actually 20 inches wide and 23 inches tall, but that key being 20 inches wide. And keep in mind those IKEA Ivor shelves, those have been around for decades. That's a very common old IKEA system that's been around for a long time. So it's really funny that this one set is 20 inches, matching that shelf size from earlier. Now, this kind of busts my point. I was thinking, man, this UCS Death Star can't be bigger than 20 inches because of the designers using that baseline shelf of the Ivor system. Well, then you look at these sets. We have the Titanic on one end, and we have the UCS Ultimate Collector Series Imperial Star Destroyer on the other. The Titanic is 53 inches long. That is way longer than the 35 inches of that shelf that I just mentioned. The UCS Star Destroyer is also 43 inches in length, but key measurement here is that it's 26 inches in depth. That's 6 more inches than that Ivor shelf. So basically, both of these sets kind of just ruin what I just told you about the Ivor shelf being a baseline. It seems to me that the Lego designer has pretty much, I would say, ultimate freedom, as long, again, you can pick up the set and move it around in terms of sizing. So point being is a UCS Death Star can be more than that 20 inches of what I initially thought this set could be. So my personal guess, 26 inches by 26 inches. I think the Imperial Star Destroyer was like the limit, because picking that thing up is kind of ridiculous. It's already obnoxiously big and it falls apart sometimes. Even I'm talking about the new one, not the original one. So yeah, I think 26 inches in diameter is kind of the limit. That's my personal guess. We'll see if this rumor's true about a Death Star. We'll see later this year if that comes to fruition or not. Now, the next discussion here, the playset version, or really the first version of the Death Star versus the second version of the Death Star. If Lego were to do the first version, I don't think it's going to look like the Playscale version. It would be all paneled up if they went with the first version. But after thinking about this for a long time, if Lego wants to go like 12,000 pieces on a set like this, the paneling is just not going to cut it. You need the Death Star 2 for all those different details. So that's going to be my choice for what a UCS Death Star in 2025 could be. I think it's needed to hit that 12,000 piece count to get all that greebling, all that detail, and especially at a size of 26 inches in diameter. It's just the right choice, in my opinion, is the Death Star 2. Plus, it also is more eye-catching, right? It's the more iconic in terms of design between the two. Don't get me wrong, both are special, but I think this would be the right choice. Now, you could also say that Lego might include panels that you could switch it out, but then I thought about it and I was like, that would be way more complicated. Again, looking at the original model that was used in episode 6, you can see that there's so much greebling opportunity for a Lego set to recreate, easily hitting that 12,000 plus piece count to really make it the biggest Lego set of all time. Now, what about the stand? This is something probably a lot of you don't maybe think about, and it's worth actually discussing. First off, a UCS Death Star of 26 inches in diameter, how on earth is that going to be held up? Because the current 2005 Death Star. That thing is a wobbly mess. I have to like baby that as I pick it up. It feels like it's going to fall apart in my hands. And it got me thinking that maybe LEGO could do a different stand design, something more in line with what you see from Attack of the Clones with the droid command ships. You can see here the way the stands of the real ship in universe were these giant feet. Now, I'm not saying the Death Star should have giant feet, but I'm saying it could have a similar design of like maybe 8 specific points of contact on the Death Star for a sturdier stand. Now, LEGO could still do the singular stand, but they would need to make the base of the Death Star incredibly robust. So you could pick it up by that and not by the stand itself. The stand would hold up the set, but you would have to pick up the actual body of the Death Star if they were to use this original design from 2005. Now, next, we're going to talk about the interior. I think this UCS Death Star at $1,000 should absolutely have an interior. And I don't think it's going to be as crazy as a lot of you are thinking. I think it's going to be much more in line with what we've seen in, say, the UCS Millennium Falcon, with a few rooms that just fit in perfectly within the size constraints of the set. I'm not expecting you to open up an entire half of the Death Star and it to be a full-on interior. That's just not realistic. As much as I would love that, I think we're going to see something more in line with the Falcon. What kind of rooms do I expect in a UCS Death Star 2? Well, I want basically the Emperor's arrival. So I want to place all those troopers. I want a little tiny like MIDI scale Imperial shuttle. Of course, we have to have the iconic Luke versus Darth Vader scene. Now, we obviously got a diorama build of this recently, but you could still make a scaled down version to fit within that 26 by 26 inch Death Star. And then just for fun, for my Robot Chicken Star Wars fans, gotta have that cafeteria, man. Now, if I'm being completely honest, it is more realistic that, especially for the Emperor's arrival, that this scene is replicated using micro scale. So either Lego studs like this, or maybe the little micro figures, because the size of that section of the Death Star that could accommodate this hangar bay just couldn't fit minifigures all that well. It'd have to be a very weird proportion. So realistically speaking, this might be what we end up getting in the final product. But I really hope that's not true. I want at least a mini scale Imperial shuttle, and I want minifigures in the scene. Like, just give me a little tiny portion, just whatever is possible with actual minifigures. But there's still hope, right? If we go back to the Executive Super Star Destroyer, that had a micro scale in terms of like greebling and detail on the exterior, and LEGO was still able to basically fit in a minifigure sized room of a pretty iconic scene. So I think something like this could be done within the Death Star. Now, I got to thinking about the 40 minifigures, and you'll see here in a minute the figures I chose, and I was thinking, it would make a lot of sense for there to be another exterior scene for the Death Star. And I'm thinking, what about the briefing room on the Home One, right? We just got the mini scale Home One set. What if we also got that briefing room? And it's been done before. We had a Home One Lego Star Wars set all the way back in 2009. My little concept idea here is, what if we get a side build in this $1,000 Death Star with minifigures that can fill a room like this, something like a quarter portion of the briefing room, and that way you can fill it up with the minifigures. Now, what about those minifigures? Well, these are the 40 that I've chosen here. There is a lot, and it was actually a struggle to get 40 minifigures, but ultimately, I think this is the most realistic option here. And so you can see on the top level, this is why I think you need that briefing room somewhere as a little side build, because if you include all of these good guys, right? We have Lando, we have Nien Nunb, Akbar, Mon Mothma, Chewie, Han, Leia, R2-D2, C-3PO. Where are those figures going to go? Yes, you could put them on a display stand, and that's maybe a little bit more realistic, but it would be really cool to have a little side build of that briefing room. Now, as for the rest of the interior for the Death Star, I think the remaining like 30 minifigures here are realistic to fill within such a big set, again, assuming it's a 26-inch in diameter set. So, of course, we have the classics. We have Palpatine / the Emperor. We have Luke. We have Vader. We have the Royal Guards. And I think it would be really cool as exclusive minifigures to this set to have the Emperor's like advisors. We've never gotten these guys in minifigure form. Of course, I expect a ton of stormtroopers. I'm just picking 8 Scout Troopers because those show up for the first time in episode 6, so it makes sense to include those as well. Plus, I believe you can see them in the Emperor's arrival scene as well. And then a whole bunch of Imperials, whether it's gunners, officers, cadets, you name it, and then a little protocol droid as well. Now, out of these figures, which ones do I think are going to be brand new? Well, I think 15 out of the 40 minifigures will be brand new and unique to the Death Star 2. And these are the most likely candidates, at least in my personal opinion. All right, and then finishing this off, I want to see the return of the Spiral Notebook instructions. It's kind of a bummer that we haven't gotten that in a long time. I believe the last time was the UCS Millennium Falcon in 2017. And it still, I believe, ships with the Spiral Notebook, but sets like the Jabba Sail Barge, the Venator, those came with just normal instruction booklets. But I want to see the giant, stupidly big instruction booklet back in action for $1,000 UCS Death Star.
You know, it would be really cool for LEGO to start like teasing us and starting to market this supposedly real UCS $1,000 Death Star, say on May the 4th this year. I mean, you could do something as simple as posting a picture on Instagram of just like a shadow and just like put in the description, "That's no moon." Literally don't need to show any aspects of the set. Just give us that little teaser and then maybe like hashtag coming, you know, fall 2025, just like little things like that. Like start building the hype. Because if this rumor turns out to not be true, I'm gonna personally be heartbroken. And I know I won't be the only one out there. I am personally pumped for what this set could bring to the table for LEGO Star Wars later this year. Assuming all is true, again, it's all just speculation and rumors at this point. Only time will tell to see if this turns out to be a real thing or not. With that said, I want to see what you guys have to say down in the comments below. What are you thinking? What are you speculating? What a $1,000 UCS Death Star could be like? I will certainly be reading all of those opinions down below. With that said, I do want to thank Whatnot for sponsoring today's video. Don't forget to come to my stream this coming Sunday at 6 p.m. And also, make sure you guys are subscribed. I've got some upcoming reviews just around the corner. LEGO Star Wars May the 4th sets are also just around the corner, so make sure you are sticking around for that here in just a little bit. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys have a great, wonderful day, and I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.